Hey, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today I'm talking about the process of grief. Hi, my name is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman. I'm an intuitive psychic medium here in the Sugar Land area. That's just outside of Houston. I work with my angels and guides to assist my clients in many areas of their lives, to bring them special messages from loved ones who have passed, to dialogue with their angels for guidance into their own situation, or to assist them with their own psychic abilities. If you like my content, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. One of the things that's really important to understand is there are really 5 steps to the grieving process, no matter what you're grieving through. If it's the loss of a friend or a loved one, a child or a parent, or even a grandchild, or a loss of a job or career, or a separation or divorce. Any of them really have like 5 stages of grief, and how to work through them a little bit differently. And not everybody will go through the same steps at the same time. So if your mother passed or your father passed, the way you and your siblings work through grief are going to be completely different. Some people work through grief really quickly, and some people go a little bit slower. And sometimes like people will go to stage 5 and then they'll go to stage 1. So it's one of those that kind of just is all different and all worked up in there, and people kind of process things differently. One of the things that I have found in my lifetime is sometimes people kind of, when there's a death in the family, some people kind of put those blinders on and like, okay, what is the business of what we need to do? We need to get the funeral planned. We need to get, go to the church or whatever it is and get that set up and work with the funeral home, those sort of things. So kind of getting to the business of what needs to be taken care of, where other ones kind of are more like in their energy of like, I just can't believe this happened. And they are just kind of puddles. They just keep crying and crying and crying. They can't really understand it. So each process is okay, just understanding that not everybody's going to go through the process at the same rate or speed or pace that you're doing. So it's kind of interesting to do that. And one person may stay stuck in one stage for a really long time and then move through the others very quickly, or not even have of them as much. It really just depends on your energy and how you work through things. So let's talk about the 5 stages. The first one is denial, then anger, then bargaining, and then depression, and then acceptance. And it's all of them in there together, and you may go through 2 stages at the same time or 1 at a time. So let's just talk about denial. Grief is an overwhelming emotion, and I tell you, that's where like a lot of people during the denial stage will get in that puddle of just like, I can't believe this happened, and I can't believe that person is now gone. It's one of those, they may end up pretending that the loss didn't happen, or kind of change how things are happening, and it's kind of like their denial. I don't believe this happened. I can't believe that person just passed. I'm saying it's one of those, it's like moving through the denial stage in your emotions can be something that you're like, a lot of people like hide because they don't know how to voice it out, or they don't know how to work through it. Grief is a journey, not a destination, so it can be very difficult. Anger is one that a lot of people deal with as a coping mechanism. Many people kind of stay stuck in anger maybe a little bit longer than they should, but it's one of those, a lot of times it's because we're told like we can't be angry. When I was grieving the loss of a loved one of mine, someone told me that I couldn't be angry at God. I know. I was just overwhelmed and just kind of like, I don't get that at all. Because to me, it's just perfectly normal to go through that process. And it really did hurt my feelings to hear that from someone. But to understand, it's like, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry at the person that left, because they've left you in this position. They're not there anymore. So it's okay to be angry. Just don't stay there for very long. Anger can kind of be directed at different people. You can be angry at a lot of family. That happens in families as well when we go through that grieving process. Some people kind of go through, it's not my fault, or they're redirecting their anger towards someone else. Like, I'm mad that mom passed, but I'm going to get really angry at you. Or I'm mad that dad passed, and I'm going to be really angry at you because I think you treated him bad, or whatever it is. And that anger comes up in so many different ways. And your rational brain is kind of like talking about like, I shouldn't blame other people. I know it's not their fault. I know it's not their fault that so-and-so passed, or so-and-so got cancer and then passed. It's one of those, it's just kind of the way they're kind of masking their own resentment and bitterness, and kind of just like anger, being just totally angry at everything that's going on. Sometimes for some people that can bring up a lot of rage and overwhelming, lingering, kind of like, I just can't let this go. And it's just kind of like a lot of it is like directed to them, because it's like, I'm angry that I wasn't there. I'm angry that I didn't know. I'm angry that they left me here, that sort of thing. And so they don't really know how to put a voice to that. The third one is kind of like bargaining. You may feel vulnerable and very helpless, and kind of like, God did this, God took this person from me, and maybe if I promised I'll go to church forever, or if I do this, or if I change this, if only I'd done this, this would have changed. If I'd only done something else, that would have changed the outcome. And that's kind of like our own way of bargaining, or feeling like we're more empowered with what's going on around us than other times. Really, a lot of times, like I said, people really get angry at God, and they'll make promises to God of, like, if you heal this person, or if you go through this, like, if I do this, if I go to church every Sunday, will you let this person live? If I go to church every Sunday, will you let this person come back from heaven? So it's just kind of that process of going through this. Stage number 4 is all about depression, and this is a stage where people can get really kind of like hung up in, because it's one of those that actually kind of almost feels good that you're going through the depression part. People can go through a very active depression, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's very quiet and kind of like laid back, but it's still running through our emotions of like, how do I do this, and how do I like work through all of this? How do I make sense of what's gone on around me? They may feel really foggy or heavy, or very confused, kind of like, I don't want to do anything. I don't have a purpose in my life now that this person is gone. I don't have a purpose of what's going on. Excuse me. Why did this all happen to happen? Why did I have to go through a job loss, or why did I have to go through the death of my parents? Why did that person have to pass? And it's one of those, a lot of times the best way to do in that instance is just really listen. Don't judge. They just need to be heard. They just need to be heard as they're going through this process. A lot of times when people would say that, oh, everything will be okay. And I think it's interesting because it's one of those, sometimes they haven't been through the same loss, or they're going through a different stage of it. And I always just say, it's all right, wherever you're at, you're okay, but don't try to bargain with them too much, or kind of let that energy go in some way. It's one of those, allowing them to feel the grief, but just allowing them to kind of let go of that energy and it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to have the depression and not feel like you need to get out of bed or take a shower or whatever it is. As you keep talking to them and letting them kind of unload some of that, it kind of helps them to kind of feel a little bit easier and kind of move more into stage 5, which is more about acceptance of it. It's not necessarily a very uplifting or very, great stage of like, oh, now it's all over. It's one of those, they've kind of are starting to learn or live past it. Kind of like, I'll always love that person, but I feel their love in my heart and they're not with me. And so it kind of feels very different in this stage, and you're kind of getting that acceptance or expected, kind of like, I'm ready to move a little bit more forward. How long you go through this whole process is totally up to you. Like I said, on average, most of my clients go through grief for about 3 to 5 years, and it doesn't mean that the person that finished in year number 3 wasn't as touched as the year number 5. It just, how are we working through the whole process? One of the things is to understand that this is a major change in your life. Totally changing everything. Instead of being able to pick up the phone and calling your husband or wife that's now passed, being able to share good news with somebody, One of my clients called the other day, and she had something great happen to her, and she wanted to call her mom so bad, to be able to voice it out to her. And she was like, I realized she was gone again. And it just, she said, I was happy, but I was sad all at the same time. And that's kind of what comes up when we're going through that grieving process. Like I said, some of those stages can kind of melt together, and then come apart and then come back together and kind of overwhelm us at times. But understand that grief is a normal part of life, to grieve someone's loss. And if you haven't lost someone in your life, consider yourself very, very lucky. It is not easy. It is a lot of work to grieve someone's loss. So let's pull a couple of angel cards and hopefully get us a little bit deeper insight into our grieving process. Children, I think one of the things that I've heard from most people is grieving the loss of a child, but also grieving the loss of your parent. You're the child, can be some of the hardest grieving ever, because it's one of those, you're always never expect your parents to pass, but you never expect your children to pass either, or to pass before you. And that can be something that a lot of people have a lot of hard times working through. And I will say the best thing you can do for them is find someone that they can talk to, a counselor that they can kind of let this off with. But you can also help and listen to them go through this process as well. Intention. Kind of think about like the intentions of what you're asking this person to do. Think about it. This is overwhelming for them. So kind of give them some leniency, but also make sure you're checking in on them a lot. Checking in on someone when they're going through the grieving process is amazing, and it's a very sweet thing you can do for other people. Listening. Listening is the most important thing. I think that is kind of the number one thing, is you can listen without taking on the energy from them. You can kind of like, I don't understand because I've not lost someone like this, but I'm here to listen to you, and I'm here to just be a sounding board for you. Sometimes that's the best thing that anybody can do during this process of just allowing you to kind of give it a voice, to speak it out, and to make sure that you are working through the steps. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.